It's actually been a while since I've continued this story, so why not pick it up from where I left off? Jiraiya so far has had to deal with things the best he possibly can. He lacks a lot of confidence in himself, not feeling worthy of the title Hokage, and I suppose that this is something he inherited from his mentor. There were actually 2 prior parts to this story, so please feel free to take a look at them if you haven't seen them yet, or if you want to catch up quickly. For those who'd rather not, I'll give a quick recap of previous events, but first,
welcome to the Amagi! Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Also, we just released some brand new merch. If you'd like to show your support for the channel even further while at the same time repping stylish clothing, be sure to check that out as well. The store is linked below. YouTube's been unsubscribing users from channels lately, so if you're a fan of us, please do us a favor and double check to see if you're still subscribed. It only takes a second, and it helps us a ton here at Amagi. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video.
The story up to this point has been fraught with hardship. After the end of the Third Shinobi World War, Hiruzen was to be ousted for his failures in leading his village. This prompted Hiruzen to seek out Jiraiya. When neither Tsunade nor Orochimaru could fulfill the position, Hiruzen attempted to get Minato, but when Minato also denied this position in an effort to have enough free time to be a father and family man, the position fell to Jiraiya. Hiruzen would come to Jiraiya's home under cover of night, just as the old sage was fixing something to eat. Startling him with his presence, Hiruzen got right down to business. "I need you to replace me," was the message the elderly shinobi had told Jiraiya. Despite his initial refusal, Hiruzen refused to allow Jiraiya to say no. So Jiraiya, out of love for his village and respect for his mentor, decided to return to the village to help run it. Despite this, he had so very little to go off of besides the wisdom he had accumulated over the years, as well as his cabinet of elders who would help him make proper decisions. Despite his best efforts, he could not avert war with Kumagakure, nor could he save Hisashi Hyuga from being forced to die for his clan. But what truly began the time of hardship was when the Ninetales was able to escape from its vessel on the day of Naruto's birth. Through his strategies and decision to sacrifice part of the village by setting it on fire, he was capable of saving a good portion of the village by driving the Ninetales out. Unfortunately, this led to the deaths of Minato and Kushina, orphaning Naruto. Jiraiya was a man of honor and conviction, so he chose to personally raise the boy. As the years passed though, tensions between the Uchiha and the village began to increase. This led to a revolt, to which Jiraiya attempted to stop and failed. However, with the help of Itachi and Shisui, not only did he survive, but he managed to prevail. Itachi had to face a hard task, however. Vowing to his mother and brother that he would not kill his father, Fugaku, Itachi faced off against him. In doing so, he had no other choice than to permanently blind his father to make way for the Koro Amatsukami, which Fugaku's Mangekyo Sharingan were getting in the way of. He further managed to save Naruto from those who would do him harm, but his relationship with his father was never quite the same. And that's where we're led to now. Approximately 6 years later, Naruto lay in bed. His room in the Hokage's residence was done up with all the things he loved. By stepping into the room, one could see everything that was Naruto's. The room dripped with his personality, from a poster depicting a spike-haired blonde martial artist to a figurine of a pirate with a straw hat. One could tell that this was truly the bedroom of your average shonen head. In bed, one leg hanging out, Naruto lay sprawled out, his sleeping cap atop his head. But unlike other days, his face seemed a little twisted. In his mind's eye, as he tried to sleep, he felt his feet being dragged through the mud, his wrist being gripped tightly, so tight in fact that it felt like his wrist might break. Who was dragging him? Looking up, he saw Uchiha and their crimson eyes as they brought him deeper into the woods and threw him down on a cold stone slab. He looked up though, and now that slab was in the middle of the village. The Uchiha that had been dragging him were now replaced by standard citizens, each of which looked down upon him with anger and disgust. They booed and screamed profanities at him, curses, curses of death, curses of ill will, curses that he should have never been born. As the anger of the citizens boiled over, he felt a foot strike him in the back, knocking him forward. Suddenly, he saw another foot push itself into his face. As he went to strike back, he saw a clawed hand. No, it wasn't his hand anymore. It was a massive claw covered in orangish-red fur. That claw had pierced through the villager, as the remainders screamed in terror and ran from him. Looking back, the villager at the end of his claw was not a villager, but now was Kushina and Minato. No! Mom! Dad! No! He hadn't realized by this point, but he was looking down at them from well above the height of the buildings. He was a giant, massive beast. But what was he? What kind of monster? What had happened to the Naruto he had been earlier? What had he become? What was he now? Looking over, he saw a masked man staring up at him with only a single crimson eye peering out from the only hole presented. Naruto attempted to smash him, but only caved the building the man stood on top of. Suddenly, he was surrounded by fire. He backed up, but saw Jiraiya rushing towards him. "No! Uncle Jiraiya! Help me!" Jiraiya led the other shinobi into battle. Naruto, in whatever massive form he was, felt his body doused in Jiraiya's toad oil. The shinobi nearby used fire style, setting him ablaze. Naruto cried out as the flames raged. No matter what he did, he couldn't feel it. There came to a point where even the flames could not be felt, but only the suffocation of the oxygen in his vicinity being sucked up by the fire. He then saw Gamabunta before him with his blade. "Please, save me, Gamabunta." Suddenly, he felt the blade pass through his chest. Naruto woke up. He grasped at his chest and took a deep breath. He sat up. He looked outside at the full moon. Why did he have these dreams? What were they? Every full moon like clockwork, his dreams were some twisted scenario. It was always the same dream every time with slight variations. He lay back down in bed and looked up to the ceiling. There were stickers up there that had been set up to look like prominent constellations in the sky. The next morning at breakfast, Naruto stumbled in and got a plate of eggs and bacon along with some orange juice. He sat down by the table. Jiraiya peeked over the newspaper at him. "Hard night?" Naruto looked over. "Yeah, how did you know?" "The dark circles around your eyes," Jiraiya said. "And if that wasn't enough of a sign, your shirt's inside out too." Naruto looked at the tag under his chin. "Oh." Jiraiya flipped the page as his cup of coffee steamed in front of him. Naruto thought for a moment. "Uncle Jiraiya, why do I have these dreams? What causes them?" Jiraiya shrugged. "Probably some traumatic memory. I dream every full moon that I'm some massive beast and that you're always coming to kill me. As I told you, it might be a massive traumatic memory." Naruto listened. "Uncle Jiraiya, what am I?" The paper slowly folded forward with gravity as Jiraiya's grip on it loosened. "You're Naruto." "I don't always feel like Naruto, though. I feel like something else." Jiraiya sighed. "You're a Jinchuriki." Naruto cocked his head. "Ginger jerky?" Jiraiya shook his head. "No, you're a Jinchuriki, a living human sacrifice." "Human sacrifice?" Naruto asked inquisitively. Jiraiya nodded. "The demon fox that attacked the village all those years ago was sealed inside of you. To keep it from destroying everything, we sealed that beast inside of you." Naruto was confused. "Wait, is that the reason the villagers and other kids avoid me? Is that why the Uchiha tried to take me away?" Jiraiya let silence ensue for a brief period before he spoke. "Yep." "Why did no one ever tell me?" Naruto asked. Jiraiya raised his paper. "The council told me not to. They said that knowledge of it might cause you to accidentally let it back out." Naruto was stunned. "If that was the case, then why are you telling me now?" Jiraiya folded up the paper and sat it on the table. "Because I hate lying to you. You have every right to know what you are. I'm tired of watching you question what you are. I'm tired of seeing confusion on your face when people refuse to come near you. You've asked so many times. Regardless of my duty to the village, I have a duty to you, as your godfather, and I'm going to do for you what I feel is best. And I think it's best you know, Naruto." "What am I supposed to do with that information?" "Would you rather I had not told you?" Jiraiya asks. No, but even if I know it now, it doesn't change anything, does it?" Naruto took a sip of coffee. "That's up to you. It can change stuff if you want it to. You can let it make you someone you're not, or you can ignore it. Personally, I would choose the third option, though." Naruto was confused. "Third option?" Jiraiya then continued. "Use it. The seal keeping the beast inside of you is designed to give you dominion. You can command its power if you have the strength to." Naruto's eyes sparkle. "How do I do that?" Jiraiya smirked. "Through training, of course. Shall I teach you?" From this point on, every day after academy training, Naruto returns home, where Jiraiya takes what time he has to train Naruto to use his tailed beast and various other jutsu. This results in Naruto becoming a bit of a prodigy at the academy. One Sasuke is jealous of to a point. Sasuke had been doing his best, but his training has hit a roadblock as he's not as strong as he wishes he could be. After class one day, he wanders home and enters his parents' house. "I'm home," he calls out. He walks in and drops off his backpack as he removes his shoes at the door. He steps in. Everything's quiet. Makoto's in the kitchen doing her thing, and Fugaku is just sitting at the table with his hand gripped tightly around the neck of a bottle. He turns it up and drinks a large chug. One could hear a pin drop, it was so silent. Sasuke sits there and smiles. "Hi, Dad. I'm sitting right in front of you, just so you know." Fugaku lowers the bottle a little. "Of course you are. I may be blind, but I'm not a dumbass, you little twit. Makoto looks back. Why don't you go freshen up a bit, hon? Your brother's coming home today. We're gonna have a big supper to celebrate. Sasuke stands up and walks to the bathroom where he proceeds to freshen up a bit. Looking into the mirror, he notices his black eye. He secretly hoped Itachi wouldn't ask about it. If he did, he'd say it was a training mishap. That tended to be the excuse that he always used, but ever since the events of the Uchiha uprising, Fugaku had become irritable. He drank a lot, and whenever he was frustrated, well, he took it out on Sasuke. Fugaku may have been blind, but he was an adept sensory type, so he had a tendency to know where things were, even if he couldn't see them. In all honesty, Sasuke had grown to hate coming home after school, and was beginning to think Itachi had the better end of the deal. As he pats the water from his face, he thinks about the events that transpired over the past 6 years. A time had come where the Uchiha clan considered overthrowing the village, but it was foolishness. It was foolish to attempt to overthrow the very institution that had previously protected them, right? It had been. Itachi and Shisui were the wisest of them all, though, and they saw things as they were, the way that they had to be. They were strong, too, to stand up to Fugaku. Itachi sadly had to fight against his father, and in the process he blinded him. Fugaku had never truly forgiven Itachi for that. In fact, days later, Fugaku demanded that Itachi leave. While Itachi was on mission, Fugaku has Makoto and Sasuke clean up his room. When Itachi came home and saw his stuff packed up, he knew exactly what it meant. Fugaku never said it to Itachi's face, but Itachi would understand by this point and move out. They generally refused to talk to each other. After that, with Fugaku being blinded and Itachi away from the family, Sasuke had no one to help him grow stronger. But now that Itachi was coming home for dinner, maybe there was a chance that he could get some training in. Coming down the stairs, he took his seat by the table. It was then that Itachi walked in and raised a bottle of sake. I brought a gift. This is supposedly the best sake that the Land of Woods can make. It's world-renowned. Maybe we can have some tonight and celebrate being back together again. Makoto would take it with a smile. Feel free to make yourself at home, she said. He began to remove his shoes and would make his way over to where he sat at a happy medium between Sasuke and Fugaku. He would smile. How have you been, Sasuke? I've been doing good, he said with a nod. A little trouble keeping up at the academy. Issues keeping up, but you were always so bright. What's wrong? Itachi asked with genuine concern. Sasuke shrugged. Well, it's hard to practice when you're all by yourself, and I haven't had as much time to practice as I would like, he would say as his eyes looked to Fugaku. Frankly, Fugaku had been taking up much of Sasuke's time. Fugaku couldn't see, and that meant he couldn't do much of anything. Well, he could do things, he was merely using his blindness as an excuse, or perhaps he was blinded by bitterness as opposed to anything else. Fugaku had stopped trying. All he did anymore was sit around drinking alcohol, trying to drown the pain of what he perceived as a failed life. A failed leader of the Uchiha, a failed father, a failed man in general. Itachi looked over. What have you been up to? Nothing. The middle-aged man said, short but full of punch, as if he were trying to stab Itachi to death with his words. Itachi smirked. Surely you've done something worth talking about. Actually, he's not, Makoto said from the kitchen. I've been trying to get him to do stuff. I've been trying to at least get him to leave the house with me on occasion, but he won't do anything but sit around. Itachi looked back to Fugaku. Dad, you gotta get out of the house a little. It's not healthy. You know what's not healthy, Fugaku began? Being betrayed by your own son, being permanently maimed. That's what's unhealthy. Sasuke shook his head. Dad, he only did what he had to do. You and the clan were making a mistake. Can't you see that? You're a fool, Sasuke. Your mother is too. The entire village. He turns his head in the direction of Itachi. I know what you did. You cast some genjutsu on everyone. Well, guess who it hasn't affected? Me. I didn't have the eyes to be affected. So I'm the only one here who actually knows what you did, and it'll never change a thing. One day the Uchiha clan will finally be cast aside, like we don't matter. And when that happens, it'll be your fault. Itachi gripped the table. You were going to start a world war and kill millions. Even our clan isn't worth that. Fugaku scoffed. Our clan never did mean much to you, did it? It meant everything to me, but so did the village, Itachi said. You were going to destroy them both. You were too prideful and naive to see that. He raised his bottle. I may be blind, but I would know the enemy of the clan anywhere. He went to strike Itachi with the bottle, but Sasuke got in the way and was struck instead. The bottle smashed, and Sasuke fell unconscious over Itachi's lap, his head bleeding. Sasuke, Itachi snapped. He grabbed his father by the collar, lifted him up, and planted a fist into his jaw so hard that one of his teeth hit the tatami flooring behind them. Fugaku just lay there for a moment, rubbing his jaw. He may not have been able to stare at Itachi, but deep down he knew that there was fire in his soul aimed at him. "I wish you had never been born," he said flatly to his son. Itachi stood there for a moment, just panting. He looked away from his father and lifted Sasuke up. He looked into his eyes to see no dilation in the pupils. He had a concussion. Makoto rushed over to check on Sasuke. Itachi looked down. "He needs to get to a hospital." Makoto nodded. Together they went to tend to Sasuke. The day after, it was time for the final exams before a shinobi could become a genin. Naruto was there. He walked in and looked around the class. He found Sasuke sitting slumped in a chair, his head wrapped in bandages. He walked up the stairs. "Sasuke, are you okay?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, just a training accident. I slipped and hit my head on a rock." Naruto's face showed surprise. "You just slipped? You seem to do that a lot. Isn't that the one thing a shinobi isn't supposed to do? You're gonna get the nickname the Clumsy Ninja if you keep this up." Sasuke looked up at him. "Buzz off, loser." Naruto scowled and went to take his seat. As class began, Iruka stood there and told them the goal of the test, to simply make a single functioning clone via the clone jutsu. If they could do that, then they would pass. Sakura pulled through easily, and even Naruto made it work. Sasuke stood and stepped in front of the class. Iruka nodded and told him to give it a shot. Sasuke took a deep breath and concentrated, preparing to perform the jutsu, but when he did, the clone came out subpar. Iruka was confused. Sasuke was gifted. He showed such potential to grow and learn, but somehow always fell behind. Was it laziness? No, it couldn't have been that. He oftentimes had displayed the ability to create clones in the past, so what was this? Let me try again, Sasuke said. He dispersed the clone and attempted to do so once more. The next clone came out even worse. The other students laughed. All of them except for Naruto, who knew that something was up. Sasuke shook his head. He dispersed it and made the hand signs for it, and suddenly he was off his feet. He leaned to the side and hit the ground. He didn't even feel himself falling. The class let out a collective gasp and went silent. Iruka leaned over the desk and then stood and walked over to him. The rest of the tests were put on hold for the day as Sasuke would be excused from class, sent to the nurse's office. There he would rest in the dark until Itachi showed up. He stepped over and pushed Sasuke's hair out of his face. "Hey, I heard you got dizzy." Sasuke sat up. Itachi gripped his arm to help steady him. "I think you need to rest. I thought I told you shouldn't have tried to do this today." Sasuke looked up at Itachi. "I don't want to get left behind." Itachi took a deep breath and sighed. "I've talked with Iruka-sensei. He said he'll wait for you when you're better. But for now, you need to rest or you'll never heal." Sasuke sat there for a moment. "Can we not go home?" Itachi cocked his head. "Why?" Sasuke sat there silently. Itachi sighed and smiled. "Okay, let's get some ice cream." He turns around and leans forward. Sasuke looks at him. "Piggyback? But I'm almost 13. Itachi would have laughed if he were a more expressive man. "You're never too old for a piggyback ride. In the Anbu, I'm on a team with this guy whose codename is Komoriguma. He's not the brightest, but he came up with a strategy he calls Totem. Essentially, the fastest shinobi will lift their partner and run while the stronger one utilizes their ninjutsu. He's so proud of it, but it still doesn't do much. Still, he's always got me carrying him on my back." Sasuke's face shows confusion. "Why don't you just say it's stupid and forget about it?" Itachi shrugs. "I think it builds bonds between members. Whether it works in practice or not, the piggyback rides never cease to get a chuckle out of the team, so I think it works. Now hop on." Sasuke gets on and holds tight as Itachi leads him out to get some ice cream. He then sits by the lake with him. They let their feet dangle in the water, and they lick up the ice cream silently. Sasuke looks up at Itachi and then back at the lake. "Can I stay at your place tonight?" Itachi shakes his head. "I don't think Dad will like that. He never likes anything. But I don't want to tell him I failed." Itachi looks over. "Why?" Sasuke sits there silently. Itachi leans over. "You can tell me anything. You're my little brother. Why?" Sasuke looks to Itachi. "He hits me." Itachi's face was twisted in confusion and disbelief. "What?" "Whenever he drinks too much, or somehow I make him look bad by not being perfect, he hits me." Itachi can't respond just yet. He's trying to take this all in. Fugaku had never been abusive during Itachi's childhood. "What about Mom? She just lets it happen?" Sasuke looks away. "She can't exactly stop him. If she tries, he'll hit her too, so I just don't tell her." Itachi's cone snaps in his hand. The ice cream drops in his lap. I spilled my ice cream, he said, using this as a perfect segue to a more lighthearted conversation. This was to comfort Sasuke while he attempted to find a way to help his little brother. He would indeed let Sasuke stay at his home that night. He wouldn't tell them what happened, only that he wanted to hang out with him for a change. Should be enough to fool them. Upon entering Itachi's abode, Itachi waved his hand. Make yourself at home. He then noticed that there was a bottle of pills on the counter that he quickly picked up and put in the cupboard. He didn't want Sasuke to see them. Honestly, Itachi had recently returned because, well, he wanted to make things right and spend time with his family. As it turns out, he was sick. Really sick. It was an incurable respiratory disease. It was some form of autoimmune disorder that caused his body to attack healthy living tissue. Right now, it was his lungs, and slowly his lungs were being covered in scar tissue, which made it harder to work, harder to do things. And the harder he worked, the more likely he would relapse. Essentially, he was getting weaker, and the longer he went, the sooner he would eventually lose the ability to breathe. As it stood, even if he took it easy, it was likely he'd be dead in 5 years. That was the diagnosis. It could be sooner, it could be later. It really depended on how his body reacted to the treatment. So he'd been trying all sorts of different medications. Right now, he was fine though. He would be fine for a while too, and he wanted to spend that time with his family. Particularly Sasuke. The two of them had always been close, and now he knew that Sasuke had no real male figure to model himself after. Fugaku was a defeated man, and he was defeated because he chose to be. Even without his eyes, he could be a productive human being, but he chose not to be, which was not the kind of person that Sasuke should attempt to model himself after. Sasuke found a nice place to sit. Itachi smiled and then opened a cabinet. What do you say we play a game? He pulled out a board game and sat it on the table. Then, afterward, we can get something to eat. So for a while, they did this until Sasuke was healthy enough to try the test again. Eventually, he would pass and be put on Team 7 with Kakashi. His teammates were Naruto and Sakura. Itachi himself would report to Jiraiya. Jiraiya himself was at his table trying to rack his brain around the Chunin exams. Sir, reports have come in that the Kazekage's entourage has set off from Suna and will be here in less than a week. Jiraiya sighed. I know. I need to find proper proctors. I know I want to have exhibition matches at the end. Those are a rite of passage. Everyone who becomes a Chunin has to go through that, but I need to find the proper person for the first two. Itachi looked at him. The first is mental-based, right? So just send someone from the Intel division to be the proctor. I can think of a few right now. Inuichi Yamanaka, Shikaku Nara, and Hibiki Marino are just 3 off the top of my head. And as for the second test, survival, how about Anko Mitarashi? They're a skilled shinobi and should do perfect as the proctor of the second test. Jiraiya thought about it. Yeah, you're right. I think I will use them. Jiraiya wrote it down. After this, he would continue doing his work as Hokage, giving out missions to other shinobi while setting up the exams. That also included giving a special mission to Team 7. Itachi had actually recommended it. He wanted to keep Sasuke out of his parents' house for as long as possible, so he asked Jiraiya if he could give them the simple escort mission put out by some architect named Tazuna. While on this mission, Jiraiya continued to ready himself for the upcoming exams. Once the 4th Kazekage and his children arrived, he gave them each a place to stay in the village. He looked out the window and found Konoha to be much more lively than usual. Not only were shinobi from other villages there, but tourists as well. The Chunin exams were like the Olympics of the shinobi world. He knew that it would be good for Konoha, but at the same time, something felt off. Do you feel it, Hiruzen? Jiraiya asked. Hiruzen nodded. I sense something's amiss. We must keep our guard up. Eventually, Team 7 returns from their mission, and Kakashi recommends that they join the Chunin exams. Jiraiya is impressed with their feats against one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Even if that shinobi were only formerly of the swordsman, he still bore the executioner's blade. He permits this. For the most part, the first test remains the same, but the second test is a little different. Nothing big happens during it, which means that Sasuke is not forced to nerf himself for the exhibitions. The exhibition matches roll around, and for the most part, they remain the same. During that month off, Naruto and Jiraiya train hard. Through Jiraiya's training, Naruto has had a chance to get a grip on his version 1 cloak, but now comes the version 2. He attempts to help Naruto master this. You need to focus, Naruto, he says. The demon fox inside of you, it wants control, and if it gets control, it will rampage. You need to reinforce your will. He watched Naruto strain and growl. He seemed to be in physical pain. He lowered down on all 4s and his back arched. Ah, shoot. He's gonna lose control, Jiraiya said. He then prepares a paper tag, and just as predicted, Naruto loses it. However, in the process of trying to calm him down, Jiraiya is wounded. a deep wound in his chest. For a moment, the words, "Ah, crap, he killed me," flash through Jiraiya's head. And as he begins to lose consciousness, he places the tag on Naruto. Naruto and Jiraiya would be taken to the hospital, where both would be placed under special guard. Jiraiya would survive, but just barely. He is left with a permanent scar. Due to the point with which this happens, Naruto is disqualified, as there's no way that he can fight. This means that Neji would have moved on to fight Sasuke, but this doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, because the Konoha Crush happens and Jiraiya is not able to do anything. He manages to get up and go to the window. He sees the snakes appear and knows it must be Orochimaru. Jiraiya knows he needs to summon Gamabunta to help him, but doesn't think he has the ability to. So instead, he summons Fukasaku and Shima, and humbly asks them for their help, to which they agree. They help him form Sage Chakra, just enough to summon Gamabunta outside. When Gamabunta arrives, Jiraiya shouts out at him to help them by defeating the snake. Gamabunta seems less than thrilled to be facing snakes, but when Itachi and Shisui show up with their Susanoo, Gamabunta seems more confident. Together, they take out the snakes, and reports begin to flood in on what's happening. It's explained to Jiraiya that Orochimaru attacked, but that he was stopped by Hiruzen, who sacrificed his life to end the fight. As Jiraiya slowly manages to get back on his feet, he speaks with Fukasaku and Shima. "You know what Orochimaru will do, right?" Fukasaku asked. Jiraiya nodded. "If his arms are weakened, he'll surely go for Tsunade. He needs her to heal them. I'm gonna have to go and stop it." Jiraiya stands and prepares to leave with Naruto by his side. It's then that he's stopped by the Anbu, who tell him that it's too dangerous for them to go alone. Jiraiya states that he's not going alone, but instead with Naruto. They tell him that this isn't good enough, so he opts to bring Sasuke and Itachi with him, which is accepted. So together they go. They're stopped momentarily by Kisame and Deidara. However, with the combined effort of everyone there, as well as Itachi's Mangekyo abilities, they manage to push them back. But immediately after this, Itachi collapses to his knees, coughing blood. Sasuke rushes to his side and asks if he's okay. Itachi nods and states that he is, but he doesn't elaborate any further. They eventually find Tsunade and inform her of what's going on. She seems adamant that she's going to meet with Orochimaru though. Jiraiya states that they can take him down together if they try. She agrees to this and proceeds to use herself as bait to lure Orochimaru in. Orochimaru would take the bait, and this is when he just gets jumped by everyone. Jiraiya, Tsunade, Naruto, Itachi. Suffice it to say, he does not survive this. With Orochimaru dead, they bring Kabuto in for conspiracy and imprison him. They eventually manage to convince Tsunade to come back too. She becomes essentially the Hidden Leaf's version of a Surgeon General. It's here that Itachi would actually start coming to her for treatment, hoping that the legendary Sannin, considered the best medical nin in the world, might be able to do something that nobody else can. Jiraiya finally has a moment for rest and sits down to silently mourn for Orochimaru. Despite the path he took, he still felt like a friend. Naruto appears behind him. "Uncle Jiraiya, are you okay? You seem upset." Jiraiya smiles. "I'm fine. You know, did I ever tell you that your father trained Kakashi?" Naruto's eyes widened. "Wait, really?" Jiraiya nodded. "In fact, Team 7 looks a lot like Team Minato's did. It's almost creepy. And honestly, both teams reminded me of my team. I suppose that explains the team dynamic. Your team is well balanced, Naruto." Jiraiya looks back. "Come, take a seat and I'll tell you more." Jiraiya proceeded to regale Naruto with stories of Minato. He knew that Naruto never truly knew his father, but if he could provide real connection to him, Jiraiya would be pleased. I think this is a fair spot to end it for the day. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been enjoying telling this story. It's nice to see how Jiraiya would handle this job. While he's wise, his nature just isn't suited for Hokage. Or perhaps, specifically because he doesn't want it and isn't always blinded by his own ego, that could be the reason why he makes such a good one. Anyway, let me know what you think. What would you like to see in the next one? Any more ideas? Let us know.
Did you enjoy our video? Well, then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi. And make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.